That if I didn't, I would have to do it again for her whenever I see her, when I see her this summer. I'm from Oklahoma originally, so, and this is actually part of the story. So we don't get to see them as often as we'd like. She wanted to be here, of course, but, 2,000 miles is a long way to go. All right, so hi, how you doing? I'm David Kyle Johnson. Thank you so much for asking me to talk today. Nina, where's Nina? Didn't give me any direction about like whatever you want to talk about. This is a huge mistake. I'm a college professor. Never invite a college professor to give a lecture because, right, we have till 5, right? So all I'm going to do actually is just kind of what you just heard a little bit. I'm going to tell you a story about. I did this when you asked me to. I'm just going to tell Johnny's story. And try to emphasize try to emphasize how much this was not me and his mom, but it was so many different people who helped us get to where he is. And that includes many, many people in this room. This is going to be a disaster. All right. All right, so Johnny Johnson's Journey. It's titled after his Facebook page. Actually, we started a Facebook page when he was born because he was born 14 weeks early. So there he is, the day he's born, 2 pounds, 0 ounces, almost 15 inches long. This is almost as early as you can be born and have any chance of survival. I practiced this at home. Did it involve this? Okay, come on. All right, so born 14 weeks early. And his first experience was being put in a plastic bag to keep him warm. Got the ventilator going there. Mother was on the verge of a stroke because of the pregnancy, so that's why we had to do an early C-section. And she only got to briefly touch him before he was put in an isolette. In the NICU, we were in Allentown, the NICU in Allentown, at the Lehigh Valley. And then we put him in the isolette. He wasn't expected to survive his second night. First night was okay. Oxygen levels weren't high enough. They didn't expect him to survive the second night. So this ironically worked out for me because we couldn't let him go without a name, and I wanted to name him after my grandfather, who I was very close to, whose name was Johnny. And my wife was like, no. Johnny Johnson, that doesn't, it's the same name twice, that doesn't work very well, right? But we didn't have another, we were going to take the summer to select the name and get the room ready and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't get to do that, right, because the summer was, summer, the birth came early. And so Lori kind of gave in, right? Let me name him after my grandfather, despite the fact that he had given me some name. And she was still in the hospital, she was still in her room, so I stayed up all night that night next to his isolette so that I could be with him when he passed. And it was that night that I first sang him this song. This is supposed to be the fun part. So it turns out that this is kind of a fun song. It's actually the most popular song in Britain to be sung at funerals. Some of you might know it. It's sung at the end of a Monty Python movie, Life of Brian, when Brian's actually being executed, right? And so they sing this kind of funny song. Some things in life are bad, they can really make you mad. Other things want to make you swear and curse. But when you're chewing on life's gristle, don't get mad, give a whistle, and this will help things turn out for the best. Always look on the bright side of life, always look on the bright side of life, because when life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and dance and smile and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps, just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. For life is quite absurd, and that's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sin, give the audience a grin, enjoy it, it's your last chance anyhow. Always look on the bright side of death, just before you draw your terminal breath. Because life's a piece of grit. When you look at it, life's a joke and death's a laugh, it's true. You'll see it's all a show, so keep on laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. Always look on the bright side of life. But of course, he's not. Spoiler alert. But of course, he survived. Right? So this set us forth with a whole new number of challenges because we had all kinds of problems. We had brain bleeds in both sides, in both hemispheres. We had a hole in his heart. His lungs were underdeveloped. You name it, we had it. The next helping hand, though, interestingly, came in a bit of technology. An isolate camera that had web functionality. This was actually a brand new thing that they were introducing in Allentown at the time. You can see it, camera number 3 sitting there over the isolate. This may not seem like a big deal. This was huge to us. One for me and my wife because we ended up living in the hospital, like living in the little hotel behind the hospital there in Allentown. We rented out a room there. Speaking of which, lots of people donated to GoFundMe type projects and that kind of stuff to help us afford essentially what was another apartment for that time, so we could be right there. And Lori could check in. Just check with the iPad. Just go right to the iPad and look and make sure that he was okay. And she could do that, wake up in the middle of the night and do that without any problem. And like I said, I'm from Oklahoma. My wife is from New Mexico, so they were a long way away for a lot of the time. They could check in on him anytime, right? You can't imagine the kind of assurity that gives you. Is he okay? And you can just look right there and see if that instant thing is okay, right? So they could check in on him from very far away. This plus Facebook allowed us to keep everybody in tune. We could just take pictures, post, and everybody who cared about it could look and see how we were developing and how everything was going. Which means we didn't have to call every parent and every relative separately. We just gave everybody a Facebook link, which was very nice. Here's a shot from the camera. So this is actually a web capture from the camera with its caption, its Facebook caption from that day. So they were finally able to turn him on his tummy this morning. He's been on his back for a week now, his whole life so far. They couldn't do it before because he had lines coming out of his belly button. But here's a pic of mom comforting him on his first time after a week old. They actually get turned over. The camera also allowed me to monitor him while keeping up on my work. So this is what my laptop looked like that summer. I was actually working on one of the great courses that we were talking about at that time. And so I was able to work on lectures and then have a little picture of him to the side on my laptop, which was very nice. There were a number of milestones in his recovery. This was his first picture without a ventilator, where we could really see his face for the first time. They were switching him to a CPAP machine, so we couldn't see his face for long because we got something else here pretty soon. But that was kind of almost our first look at his face, except for the very day that he was born. There's the CPAP on him. You can see how small he is there. You can see the patches too, right there, because they would constantly have to tape stuff to his face and that kind of stuff. Right? So very rough on him. And he looks like an old man. So here's first time that mommy held Johnny, first skin-to-skin contact for mom on July 19th. He was born on June 25th, so almost a month in, 25 days after Johnny was born. That's the first skin-to-skin contact there, and then there's me and my hairy chest. Holding him for the first time. Probably the day after, a couple days after that. That's a good one. Here he's a month old. It's a rare upright photo. Still looks like a peanut. Last night we weighed him. He's 2 pounds and 12.5 ounces. So we gained 12 ounces in a month. It's very cute. Starting to fill out a little bit there, but he just had those things in his nose all the time. 726. This boy loves it. Well, I love this picture. Loves it when it's time to eat. The milk must tickle his tummy because he smiles a lot during feeding time. He is still getting milk through a small tube that goes into his mouth, down into his belly. So he had a constant tube going down the back of his throat, down into his belly, along with the breathing apparatus on him, which you can see the smile. He loved it. Not the tube, but he liked the milk. There's my first kiss on 8/6/13. His hair is starting to turn blonde. We didn't know if that would last, but you can see that it did. Here's 6 weeks after he's born. First time he gets to wear clothes. Body temp is regulated, and so he gets to wear little onesies with all the wires and stuff coming out. New CPAP machine that makes him look like an elephant. That's what they called it there too. He hated it, absolutely hated it. We tried another one. That one looks like a medieval torture device. He hated it even more. But we finally got to, from the long prongs to the short prongs. Short prong cannula, his flow was down to 2.5, and we got our own room, which was nice. We had been in a kind of collective room with a whole bunch of people. He finally got to where he could be in his own room by himself, and we can actually fit the pacifier and the cannula all in the same spot, so that was nice. This is in August, by the way, now 8/15, so we're almost a couple months in at this point. And 2 months in, then we start to actually learn to try to eat with a bottle. 8 weeks after he was born, wasn't easy. He was never very good at it. He's great at it now, but the bottle was never all that easy for him. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We got a new bed 2 months in, no more incubator, size newborn diaper, still using feeding tube and oxygen. But then we had the new bed there, so that was nice. Just kind of making incremental steps. We had a double hernia surgery, so that was fun. 9/5, finally off the feeding tube on September 7th. You see he starts to fill out a little bit there. All right, kind of getting chubby. So no more feeding tube there. Grandma finally gets to hold him almost 3 months after he was born, so that's my mom. I had a little bit too much downtime. It's a 6x6 Rubik's Cube that I put his name into. Interestingly, PBS we interviewed us. They were doing a featurette on the Isolate camera because it was kind of a new invention. It was kind of a big deal or whatever, and so they came and they selected Johnny to be the kind of feature for the PBS special, and we got interviewed and stuff. And so I think it was the day before we left the hospital. We were in his room watching ourselves on television. These interviews happened back whenever he was first born, when he was still in Isolate with the camera. But that was kind of a neat thing to happen for us. But there's a couple screenshots from the PBS special. Pretty cute. Finally gets to go home. We did some glamour shots before we left. Little wink there. We've got a few of those. That one's in your bedroom still, Mr. Johnny. There were some good ones. There was Rose. She was the head nurse there. She kind of took a special interest in him. Gave him some special attention. So that's kind of saying goodbye. It's a little bit earlier picture, but we said goodbye to Rose on our last day. 8 days before our actual due date, and 89 days after his actual birthday. We finally got to go home. You can see how much, and I was actually saying at the time, like, we're going to look back at this as one of the most wonderful times because we had to do no work, right? Like, all the work was being done by, the hospital and all that kind of stuff, right? We just got to be there, go, and change him when we wanted to, and be with him and touch him and all that kind of stuff, and all the hard work was done by the nurses and stuff like that. Don't believe yourself, it was hard, but so then we finally get to take him home. Notice the 2 wires that tethered him to us in the bedroom. Essentially, my poor wife was stuck in the bedroom with him for almost a year, right? Because he couldn't go. We could take him out a little bit, right? But to do so was a lot of hassle. But you had to put him on oxygen and all that kind of stuff, right? He has an oxygen. Well, next slide. He has an oxygen machine, and we have a pulse ox and that kind of stuff to keep track of everything while he's there. But we can kind of only go as far as the cords go, right, which is not very far, kind of his room and other room we had kind of set aside or whatever. So we were tethered to him for quite a long time, couldn't do any major ventures out. What we did, we had to keep him on the oxygen there. We had to visit the local fire department to tell them that we had bottles of O2, right? Because obviously those are very flammable, so if there's any problems, those could be a problem. I'm not much help either. I'm doing more nerdy things that are not helpful. This is a mobile I made for him, in case you can't tell. Original Enterprise crew. Original Millennium Falcon crew from Star Wars. And then this was the current Doctor and his companions at the time. The mobile I had made, I helped make. And then here I am reading Star Wars for him. His first book reveals that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father, right? So, but we still read that book, don't we, Johnny? Yeah. And have nebulizer treatments on a very regular basis. So we would do these nebulizer treatments here. We do them multiple times a day. So this is this little duck mask that we put him in sometimes. And more doctor visits than you can count. I believe here we're trying to figure out if the hole in his heart ever sealed up. And it did. So that's good. The brain bleed stopped too, by the way. Made a lot of progress, obviously. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 months. It's hard to see on this one. He's doing like a little Superman pose. But we still had a lot of work to do. And at this stage, he has chronic lung disease. He has a 100% delay in fine and gross motor development and expressive communication, and a 75% delay in receptive communication. And so this is where his IEP steps in. So this is where you guys come in. First occupational therapy provided through early interventions by Nicole Cordillo under the direction of Tammy Barber. And so we start having house visits on a regular basis to get him to develop, right, in all these ways that he's lacking. And so we've got some good pictures of the kinds of things. A lot of these pictures were like, I'm taking a picture of this so I know what to do while you guys aren't here. My wife would do, right? And so we have all these little different exercises and developmental exercises and routines and stuff that we did for him. But this is us being taught different things, different house visits, and learning to kind of hold his own weight, how to hold his head up, and all that kind of stuff. These are just cute pictures. I mean, they're still doing therapy and stuff like that. You can see his first Rubik's Cube here. But on oxygen the entire time, right? So it's not always easy to do all of this stuff. And it was successful, and we're going to see if this works, if the sound's going to work. I don't think the sound's working, but that's okay. So those were his actual first steps. So the IEP got him to that. That actually happened in Alabama, I think, when he was visiting family. It was also a challenge to get him off oxygen. That was quite a chore. The way this happens is you do sprints. You take him off for a few minutes a day, let him breathe on his own, keep a pulse hook on him, make sure he's still getting enough oxygen, etc. Lengthen it out over time, and it took months of just little exercises, getting him off 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, hour a day, etc., etc. Walks weren't easy. You have to put him on, keep him on the cannula, put him on the oxygen, all that kind of stuff to get him out. Johnny loved them, though, of course. It's one of my favorites. Thanks to his IEP, he does get out to pop into the NICU to visit the nurses. They love to see him when they come back, and so this is actually a board there at the NICU with all the other babies that had gone through there, right? And Johnny was kind of a celebrity there. Everybody remembered him. In fact, outside the hospital, doctors who we had never seen before, attending a convention, we got out of the car in his car seat, and these doctors just like, hey, it's Johnny Johnson! Like, what are you? They had just attended a session at the convention. It was on the NICU camera. Johnny was, like, the nurses were presenting their research about the effectiveness and usefulness of the camera and that kind of stuff, and so he was the star of this presentation they just got out of, and then they walked out of the thing and to see us there visiting the NICU and there for the doctor. So Johnny had some downtime himself. So crazy 4x4. By April, we were finally off oxygen. Our first outing, other than a doctor appointment, was to the Boy Scout spaghetti dinner. We got a friend of ours who does a lot with the Boy Scouts, so we did that. We did not eat any spaghetti. Our first outing event was a Wyoming Valley West High School softball game. My wife teaches there. This was a good one. He gets to meet Granny. Oh boy, here it comes again. Granny is the wife of my grandfather, who he is named after. This is the only time they got to meet. She died shortly after. And unfortunately, I wasn't there for this one. I had a conference I was at, and so I wasn't able to be there. But this was the only time that they got to meet. My grandfather, among other things, World War II vet who survived the European theater, but then also worked for John Deere and invented a couple of things for them or whatever. And so she gave him a monogrammed John Deere blanket with his name, which we still have, of course. But she did die shortly thereafter, just a few weeks thereafter. And so at her funeral, we also got to meet Papa. And so you can see where he gets his name. And a whole host of other friends and family that he gets to meet. Cousins, friends, these are both sides of the family. One of my best friends from back in the day, Jason. Right, so he's finally able to travel around. All right. And he got to go to the NICU one-year picnic, so every year they do a picnic where they invite everybody who's graduated in that year to come back. And so this is just some of them. It's actually like 4 or 5 slides that are like, not slides, but pictures that are like this. I included this one because this was his main doctor right here. So she did a lot of the heavy lifting intellectual work, figuring out what he needed to survive. So that's on September 21st. Gets to visit me on the set of Tommy at King's. We did Tommy at King's. I played the drums, and so he loves the drums. He's got his own drum set and that kind of stuff. He liked to bang on the kit. He also had trouble eating though, and this was, So he had trouble eating, and this was, they at least summarized or hypothesized that it was because of the cannula and all the stuff that they kept having to cram down his throat whenever he was so premature. It kind of scarred it in a certain kind of way. It made him numb, and he couldn't. And so he would drink the milk and he couldn't feel it, and he would just he would start going down his windpipe, and he would choke, and he could not tell where the milk was, right? And so, genius solution, so was give him cold milk. The cold formula, the cold milk, you could actually feel that, and so he'd know when to swallow. But it was a struggle. We were having a real hard time getting food down. But that helped. Now that he's off oxygen, it's time to learn to eat solid food without throwing up. One of my favorite stories is my mother-in-law came to help, and she thought it was just ridiculous that he wasn't eating baby food yet. He was like, no, he should be eating baby food, not like this formula, right? And so it took an hour to get just one little deal of Pediasure or whatever, like little formula down him or whatever. And she's like, he can eat baby food. It'll be fine. I'll get him to eat baby food. And so she got just a little spoonful or whatever, and just kind of approached his mouth. The entire bottle of formula all up in one go, just all over her, right? Couldn't stand it. Could not stand it. But this wasn't easy, but this is another place that IEP stepped in, trying to help us with the feeding and getting him used to that. And it was really slow. We made some progress. There was his first birthday. We made some progress. Along the way, we discovered some new challenges. He's allergic to peanuts. The allergies actually subsided a little. It's actually retracted. It's just above the level where he still technically has an allergy. But I didn't let him have any cake because there was peanut butter on it. But there he's breaking out because he had a peanut butter cracker. This is a doctor visit to the IEP on Halloween in 2014. This is a cape that one of the staff at the NICU actually made for him. So we wore it with his Superman outfit that Halloween. And it took a while. You see we're into 2015 and we're still on bottles, right? It took a long while, but we finally got there, September 9, 2015. We actually skipped baby food entirely, went straight from bottle to solid salty foods. So there he's eating some rice at pad thai. Or at Thai Thai, excuse me, at Thai Thai. We finally got there. All right. Because of the progress he made, thanks to his IEP, he was able to be the ring bearer at his cousin's wedding. So that was lots of fun. Very cute little picture down there. Oops. Then we start noticing things like Johnny contemplating about the universe and everything, and so we decide it's time to go to school. We went to King's. Well, he was still under 3 getting therapy at home. We went to the King's daycare there. Started him there. Went for a year there. But on Nicole's advice, who was one of our at-home therapists, after 3, we enrolled him in WVCA, because that's where his therapist and everything would be. And it was the best decision that we could have made. Absolutely the best decision that we could have made. And it would not have been possible, by the way, without aftercare. That was something that was added around the time, I think around the time that we started. That made it doable. Well, we could do that because both Lori and I kind of worked a little bit later and that kind of stuff, and it worked out really, really well. Not to mention that we just lived a few doors down, so we're able to walk to school, which is nice. So there he is on Halloween 2016. And not only did they put on great Halloween costume parades, so there he is as Buzz Lightyear, but he continued to get the therapy he needed right there at school, which was a huge, huge benefit. I cannot tell you what a blessing that was. That included his speech therapy, right? So among other things, we can talk to the girls, right? That's actually Nicole, his therapist, that's her daughter at her birthday party. But speech therapy and cognitive therapy, to undo the damage done by YouTube. You guys know what cognitive therapy is for, but. And fine motor therapy, so I included this one as him able to write his own name, right? Fine motor. Thanks to Morgan Brady and Amanda Pernod at WVCA. Thank you guys so much. This one actually hangs above my computer. A little tricky. So then after a summer break, we went back for another year, 17 and 18. There's Halloween 2017. We tested out, and this year, we tested out of needing any IEP therapy. We had progressed so far that we didn't need it anymore, which was huge. Right? So we made countless new friends. He's considered by many of the staff to be the mayor of the building. I've heard that numerous times. They put on incredible fundraisers. I was very happy this year. And then after another summer break and a birthday party with all his school friends at All-Star Gymnastics, so that's at the birthday party there, jumping into the ball pit. And we did a lot of swimming that summer.
Yeah. Look out.
Deep end. He's saying, I'm going to do a cannonball next time. So that was actually in Elkhart, Kansas, is where that pool is. We went back for a 3rd year. So this is our 3rd year at WVCA. Another awesome Halloween parade, and Spider-Man this year. And a lot more learning. There's a craft on the table there you can't see very well. A lot more learning. You won't be able to hear this, but he's... He says, good catch. And then he's very camera aware too. And of course, I'm 5 years old. How old are you going to be next year? 6. Anyway, these are better with the sound, but. And then this is us picking them up at last day before Christmas. It was pajama day. Grandma and Granddad are there to pick him up. It was pajama day, that's right. And then this one you almost need the sound for. He's just talking Grandma and Granddad through a book he made at the school. He's just getting all the colors right. You can't hear it, but yellow turkey, etc., etc. As I was telling him at the table, he's come so far since since Christmas. It's remarkable. So he'll be graduating this year from WVCA, but thanks to a lot of helping hands, medical science, his IEPs and WVCA, he's come a long way since I first sang him that song, That Fateful Night in June. And every time I put him to bed, I sing it to him again. Johnny, you want to come sing a song? I have a video, but the audio is not working, so. Some things in life, they can really make you
mad.
Other things want to make you
Swan cuss.
chewing on.
Cussos.
Don't get mad,
Give a whistle.
and you will see things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Life seems there's something you've, and that's to laugh and dance and smile. But when you're feeling,
Dumps.
don't be silly.
Jumps.
Just purse your lips and whistle.
The fan.
And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Because life is quite,
So.
and death's the final. You must always face the curtain.
The bell.
Just forget about your sins, give the audience up. Just remember it's your last chance.
Yeah.
And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Because life's a piece of,
Quit.
when you look at, life's a joke and death's a laugh.
True.
But don't forget about the,
So.
keep them laughing as you,
Go.
and just remember that the last laugh. Always look on the bright side of life. That's all I got. Thank you so much for asking me to come.